welcome back to what will be the final episode of BudBusters for a multitude of reasons. First up, the reality that far too many white men are taking up public discourse space, and in a time of limited oxygen during the coronavirus, I don't want to keep on contributing to that. So you see a few names maybe pop up along here or somewhere according to what my IT skills can actually achieve. Recommend checking them out. They fall outside of the Anglosphere axis of evil and are bloody brilliant. Second, also I've had to reactivate my Facebook to share a few of these videos, which doesn't sit too well with me because Facebook is basically profiteering off spreading hate speech and manipulating elections and manipulating public consciousness. So yeah, I kind of want to take a step back from that ugly, ugly beast. Third is the reality that I still have to get a PhD done, so that's on a more selfish note. So anyway, where are we now? So we've got, yes, a crisis. Out of a crisis comes opportunity, and now is not the time for politics. These are the kind of bullshit platitudes we'll be getting from politicians and people who want to keep the status quo all over the world. Yet the reality is we need to go a bit beyond just platitudes. Yes, there is an opportunity with crisis, but we have to actually mobilize to make that happen. And yes, politics, okay, we have a public health emergency, but politics is still a critical issue. If we look at 2008, financial crisis, that old beast again, what happened afterwards, after the government stepped in to bail everything out, we had rampantly growing global and national level inequalities, where a few rich dudes seem to own increasingly everything. So yes, politics are important, opportunities need to be grasped. So that brings us to the kitchen sink. Yes, apparently many governments around the world are going to throw the kitchen sink at this current pandemic, which is fantastic. But let's also not forget that before this was all unfolding, we're actually already in the midst of the climate crisis, and that beast is actually far more deadly and going to take a lot more effort than just this pandemic. So hopefully there's a second kitchen sink that's even bigger, maybe made of marble, mixture of stainless steel, whatever. But let's get that kitchen sink out, throw that at the climate crisis with all the effort, which also means addressing a lot of underlying inequalities. While we're talking about inequalities, crisis is time to reflect not just what matters, but also who matters. So the fact that we've got governments in Europe and the US and elsewhere saying, we're no longer going to export medical supplies is pretty deeply disturbing, because it's a pretty clear indicator of who they think counts. In the meantime, somewhere like Mali has maybe 1 to 26 ventilators for a population of nearly 20 million. While I know a lot of friends in other countries where health systems aren't that capable and their governments aren't resourced enough to be throwing out lots of social support and boosting health services. So yes, let's look at who matters and make sure everyone matters, and we put the resources to where they needed, which is on a global scale. But yes, out of this opportunity, we must also look towards rebuilding a more just society. And let's just not go about talking about justice bullshit, but actually make it happen on a global, national level. Includes people getting off their asses, off social media to actually make things happen. So to wrap things up, I know there's a bit of concern. I was thinking of placing a bottle of bleach behind me just to freak everyone out, but turns out my parents would probably have a heart attack, and now is not the time to do that. So instead I've got this symbolic apple. It's an apple of hope, although actually hope can be misleading because it's kind of a nice panacea or panacea, however you want to pronounce it. I'm not particularly good at pronouncing that word particularly. Let's just call it the apple of symbolism. And don't worry, my name is not Adam in the religious sense, and also it's definitely not Adam Smith. So I will bite into this apple, and let's hope the symbolism of the apple means we can do something, not just something, but whatever it takes to make sure that we come out of this crisis to address the climate crisis and address all the underlying crises of a deeply unjust, unequal world, while we have this chance to disrupt the system where GDP growth and stock markets seem to prevail above all other considerations. So let's take it. Get your apples out at home, get whatever you want. Don't get soap, because it does stick in your teeth, and soap also just burns your tongue. So yes, I can't taste stuff, but I also have a burning tongue for all of yesterday. So go back to the safety of the apple, which will also deliver cinematic effect, just like the onion. Let's hope so. It is delicious. There's a faint faint taste of smell, and definitely a cinematic crunch. It's been a pleasure. See you all sometime. Bye.